Good morning, YouTube. This is IMAX Sports welcoming you to another video. So today we are going over the my AFC North predictions for the 2020 season. I have looked at every single game of every single team's schedule in the entire NFL, and I've made predictions for every single team in the NFL for all 256 games. This is the second episode in the series. I will be doing the next 6 every week leading up to the season until Wednesday, the day before Thursday Night Football, to kick off the season. So let's get right into it. Today we're starting off with the Bengals. The Bengals have a new quarterback this year, a rookie. His name is Joe Burrow. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was kind of a big thing in college football, and he's come to the NFL now. And so I think that a lot of times with rookie quarterbacks, they need a year to develop before they can be all-world. I think that Joe Burrow is going to have a good season. I don't think that he's going to have a bad season, and I don't think he's going to have a playoff season. I think he's going to have a good season. I think that, because I can't predict, so for me, thinking about my own opinions, I can't predict a team to go 12-4 with a rookie quarterback, because you don't know what they're going to do. So for the first game of the season, he's battling out with another rookie quarterback against the Chargers, and I think that in that first matchup, Joe Burrow has the advantage. Third game of the season is against the Eagles in Philadelphia. I don't have the Eagles as extremely high team this season, but I think that they can beat the Bengals at home. Next, we have Bengals-Jaguars. The Bengals are at home this game, and I think that by this point, Joe Burrow is going to start getting into a rhythm. He's going to start knowing his players. He's going to start knowing where to go, where to look for different things, and I think that by week 4, he's going to have a good understanding of that. He's at home. The Jaguars aren't the best team in the league. I think that this is a good win for them. Next, we have the Ravens. I think that the Ravens are going to wash out the Bengals, win both games. It's just not going to matter. Week 6, we have the Colts, and the Colts are going to beat the Bengals. It's in Indianapolis. You're against Philip Rivers. He has much more experience than Joe Burrow. I think that Philip Rivers wins this matchup 9 times out of 10. Like I said, Bengals and Browns are splitting. And then, interesting decision, I have the Bengals beating the Titans. So, this is in Cincinnati, which helps a lot. I think that the Titans have a better football team than the Bengals do. But in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow's had some weeks to practice. I think that this is a good game for him to win, and I think that it's a good game for the Bengals to gain some confidence before going into the end of the season. So right now they're at 4-4, which actually isn't that bad. And then you get the Steelers and the Redskins, which I think are both losses because they're both away games. 2 away games in a row can be rough. The first one isn't, it's not usually too bad having the first away game, but the Steelers are definitely better than the Bengals when Ben Roethlisberger returns. And then the second game is the Redskins, and if you're at your second game away, you're against the Redskins. They're not the greatest team in the world, but you're against it's not the Redskins. Sorry, the Washington Football Team. You're against the Washington Football. I changed the logo. I just didn't change in my head. So you're against the Washington Football Team, and I think that they take a loss in Washington. The next week after the Washington Football Team, you're against the Giants, and I think that that's a win for the Bengals. They're back at home. It's their first home game in a few weeks. I think that they take advantage of that, and they get a good win against the Giants. Next, you have the string of losses to end off the season. You're in Miami. You're at home against the Cowboys. You're at home against the Steelers. You're in Texas, and then you're at home against the Ravens. I mean, I can see them beating the Dolphins, but it's in Miami. And Miami does very well in Miami. I can see them beating the Cowboys, but I don't see it very likely. The Cowboys have a very explosive offense, and I think that the Bengals won't be able to keep up. I can see them beating the Steelers at home, but I think that actually, I do have them beating the Steelers at home. I don't know what I apologize. I think that they will beat the Steelers at home. I think that they'll split with every team, with the Steelers and the Browns. The Ravens will win both times. And I don't see them beating the Texans in Houston. I just don't. So, that's the Bengals. Now we move on to the 8-8 Browns. So, the Browns also have a pretty interesting season look out. I don't see the Browns winning more than 8 games. I think that they're going to have a good season. I think they're going to have a bounce-back season from last year. They're just not going to bounce enough. I think it's also partially because they are in a tough division. Most of the teams are pretty strong, and so I have them either splitting or losing on all 3 occasions, so that's going to hurt them as well. So first game of the season is in Baltimore, and that is in no way a win for the Browns. The second game of the season, as I stated, is a split. They split with the Bengals. They win at home, they lose away. Third game of the season is at home against the Washington football team, and I think the at home second home game in a row, the Browns are going to be rested up. They're going to be able to beat the Washington football team. The week after the Washington football team, they're against the Cowboys, and they're in Dallas, and I don't see them beating the Cowboys in Dallas. The Cowboys, again, as I mentioned, have a very explosive offense. The Browns can have an explosive offense, but if Baker Mayfield has the same amount of interceptions this year as he did last year, and the Browns as a total keep up with the turnovers, then I don't see how they'd be able to keep up with the Cowboys when the Cowboys have so many extra possessions. They could turn that around. That would be a very positive thing for the Browns, but it would still be a hard game for them to win. Next is at home against the Colts, and I think that they take a win there. It's Baker Mayfield against Phillip Rivers. I think that Baker Mayfield can win that matchup just because he has better weapons. Next is away against the Steelers. I think that that's a loss for the Browns. I think that they're going to split with the Steelers because they do play them tough at home and they play them tough at the end of the season. This is neither. So this is going to be a major loss from the Browns. And then they're going to lose to the Bengals the next week because they are, again, away against a divisional matchup. Next is the Raiders, and this is a home game. And I think that the Raiders are going to be possibly the worst team in the NFL this season. They're sticking with Derek Carr after a couple of years of complete and utter nothingness. Their team did not improve last year. Every other team in the league did. I don't see the Raiders doing anything impressive, and I think that this will be a win for the Browns. The next week they're at home against the Texans. I think that this will be a win for the Texans. The Texans, I think, are going to have a very strong football team, like always. The Browns are not going to have what it takes to beat them. They will compete. It'll be a one-score game, but the Texans will come out on top. And then we have the Eagles and the Jaguars, which I have both as wins. The Eagles are a better team than the Jaguars, but the Browns are at home against the Eagles and away against the Jaguars. I think those will both be wins because coming off of a good win against the Eagles, they're going to have good momentum to beat the Jaguars. And then, last but not least, we have the Titans, the Ravens, and the Giants to ruin their playoff chances. First off, you have a home game against the Ravens. The Ravens will win that game. I think that the Ravens will. If the Ravens don't beat out the Browns, then this division will look very different. But I think that they will beat out the Browns in both games, and it's going to start the Browns' losing streak towards not having a playoff chance. As of right now, before the Titans and Ravens games, I have the Browns at 6-5, which is pretty good for playoff contention. But then when you lose in Tennessee, and then you lose at home against the Ravens, which I see both of those things very possible, then you start to slip from that playoff contention. And then, I think in perfect Baker Mayfield fashion, he's also going to lose to the Giants for the third loss in a row, only time in the season where they have 3 losses in a row. And I think it's because Baker's going to choke at the end of the season, lose the playoff spot, and then play the Steelers really tough at home and beat them to stop the Steelers from winning the division. So those are my Browns predictions. I think that the Browns predictions and the Bengals predictions are very solid. I think that the Steelers and Ravens I'm not 100% sure about, especially because Ben Roethlisberger has been injured. But let's continue. So here we have the Steelers. I have them going 11-5. I have them starting off the season extremely strong at 9-2 and not being able to finish. So first we have the New York Giants in New York. I think that Ben Roethlisberger has more experience than Daniel Jones, and I think that considering there's no preseason, Ben Roethlisberger is going to have an advantage over him, getting the team going, getting the team ready, and just getting at it for the first game of the season. Next, the Steelers are at home against the Broncos, and I think that that's an easy win for them. The next week is at home against the Texans. That's a much tougher game, but they're still at home. This is their second home game in a row. They just had an easier opponent the previous week, and I think that the Steelers have a good chance of winning that game. The next game is against the Titans in Tennessee. I say that Tennessee wins this game because it's in Tennessee. I think that Tennessee and Houston have very similar teams, and I think that the Steelers team is also right in there with them. But just the fact that Tennessee is going to be at home, I think that gives them a slight advantage. Even though there's not going to be fans in the stands, I think that the home field advantage will still play a part in a lot of these games. Next is the Steelers at home against the Eagles, and I think that this will be a win. I think that the Steelers have a better team than the Eagles, and they will have a much bigger advantage at home. Actually, they're not really going to have an advantage. They're both in Pennsylvania. I just think that the Steelers will beat the Eagles in this case. Next is the Browns, and that's going to be a win. Like I said, they split with the Browns. I split them with the Ravens. The first game is away, so the Ravens will win that one. The second game is home, so I put the Steelers as winning the second game. After the Ravens, they go to Dallas, and I think that in Dallas they will win that game. It's in Dallas, but I think that the Steelers' defense is going to be good. Enough again this year to shut down Dak Prescott for long enough for Ben Roethlisberger to build a lead, and then they won't be able to come back from that, and the Steelers will just be winning in that situation. Next is Steelers-Bengals. I have the Steelers and Bengals splitting. I have the Steelers and Browns splitting. I have the Steelers and Ravens splitting. I think that the Steelers and Browns are the two most mediocre teams in the division. I think that the Steelers will split with everybody because every team has some pretty solid players on it in this division. It's one of the better divisions in the league this season. Next we have Steelers-Jaguars in Jacksonville. I think that that's just a win. I know it's in Jacksonville, but I don't see Gardner Minshew beating Ben Roethlisberger this year. I think that Gardner Minshew doesn't have the people around him to beat the Steelers. I think that the Steelers, having Juju Schuster, their other good wide receivers, and James Conner are going to have an explosive offense, even though they don't have Antonio Brown, and I think that it'll be too much for the Jaguars defense to handle. Then you go to back home, and you play against the Ravens for the second time. I think that Ben will have figured out the Ravens defense by then, and it'll be Ben versus Lamar. I think Ben wins in that situation at home. Also, it's going to be cold in Pittsburgh by then. Baltimore still does get cold, it just doesn't get as cold as Pittsburgh. Next, we have the Washington football team, and I think that the Washington football team will lose to the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Again, it's coming from Maryland area, just like Baltimore, actually. They're coming into Pittsburgh, it's going to be cold, they're not going to want to play. They're just and they have a worse team than Baltimore. I don't see them going into Pittsburgh this late in the season with this weather and winning. Next, the Steelers are actually moving north to Buffalo, and I think that Buffalo wins this game because it's in Buffalo. They have a very strong team. I think the Steelers also have a very strong team, but I think that the Steelers and Bills are very comparable teams. The Bills have a better running quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger doesn't run, but their receiving core is very similar, and their defenses are both very strong. So I think this will be a one-score game, maybe decided by 3 or 4 points. It's going to be an incredible game to watch, and I'm excited for the Week 14 matchup against the Steelers and the Bills. Next is Bills-Bengals. I think that the Bengals will win that matchup. Again, I have the Steelers splitting with everyone in the division, so the Bengals will win there. And then finally, Week 16, we have Ben Roethlisberger versus Phillip Rivers. I think that will be another good game. That and the Buffalo game will be two very good games. The Colts are also a northern team. The weather won't be a big impact. Phillip Rivers has been in the South for a long time, but I think that he'll adapt to the weather by then. And I think that it's going to be a very good game, and the Steelers are going to pull it out. And then Week 17, the Steelers are in Cleveland to finish off the season. Cleveland always plays them tough, but they never end up winning. I think that this year I'm going to give them a win, and I think that the Steelers will go 11-5. But not least, we have the league MVP Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I think that the Ravens are going to go 12-4 this season and win their division and get second place in the AFC. The first game of the season, they're at home against the Browns. I think that that's a fairly easy game for them to win. Lamar versus Baker Mayfield. Lamar had an amazing, enormously better season last year. Next, Week 2, it's Ravens against the Texans in Houston. I think that Houston wins that game. It's still the beginning of the season. The Ravens are still getting back into the groove. There weren't any preseason games. I think that in Houston, the Texans can win that. I think that Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson are very similar quarterbacks, and I think that they'll have a very similar play style and approach to the season. I think that the Texans do have better receivers than the Ravens, even though DeAndre Hopkins is gone. So it'll be interesting to see if that's a high or low scoring game. But I think that the Texans will win. Next is at home against the Chiefs, and I think that the Chiefs will win this game. I think that this game will decide the winner of the AFC, and I think the Chiefs are going to take it home. Next, we have the Ravens against the Washington football team in Washington. And I think that that's just not even going to be an issue for the Ravens. The Ravens will just walk over the Washington football team. It'll be a blowout. It's not even going to be close. Next, we have the Bengals, and the Ravens are the only team that I have beating out the Bengals and the Browns. The Ravens are the only team I have splitting with one other team, which is the Steelers. Every other team has split with at least one other. I think that the Ravens are extremely good for their own division, and their division is good for the NFL. But I think that the Ravens should be able to beat the Browns and the Bengals on both occasions, knocking the Browns out of the playoff contention. Next, we have the Eagles in Philadelphia, and I just see this as a complete win. I think that the Eagles are a solid football team, but I don't see them as a threat to the reigning MVP and the Baltimore Ravens. Next, we have Ravens-Steelers in Baltimore. The Ravens, I think, are going to split the Steelers. This is the game in Baltimore. Next, we have Colts-Ravens in Indianapolis. I think that this is going to be a good game, again, because Phillip Rivers. I think that Phillip Rivers is a great quarterback. He always has interesting games, but he doesn't always come out on top. I think that this will be a high-scoring game, and it's going to be decided by one score, but Lamar is going to pull it out. He's going to have one too many touchdowns. Next is against the New England Patriots in New England, and I think that the Ravens are going to, just like last year, completely dominate the Patriots. Last year, the Patriots got smacked at home against the Ravens. I see the same happening again this year. Next, Ravens-Titans. The Ravens are at home. I think that Lamar versus Derrick Henry will be an interesting matchup. I don't know if I count Ryan Tannehill or Derrick Henry as the quarterback of the Titans, but I think that Lamar Jackson should be able to beat the Titans because he is Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill combined into one player. Next is the Steelers in Pittsburgh. That's a loss. I see them splitting. I think that they're very even matched teams. I think that even because the audiences are weird this year, they could even be swapped where the Steelers win in Baltimore and the Ravens win in Pittsburgh. I just don't think either team will win both. Next is Ravens-Cowboys, and I think that the Ravens will win this matchup. They're at home. They had a much better season than the Cowboys last year. I think that they will continue to do better than them this year. Next is Ravens-Browns in Cleveland. I think that the Ravens, again, have a much stronger team than the Browns, and they will win out. And then after the Browns, they are at home against the Jaguars. And I think that Gardner Minshew has a very solid base for a quarterback. He'll do good in his career. But I think that against Lamar Jackson, he's not going to stand a chance. This is going to be a 3-score game. The Ravens are going to win by at least 2 touchdowns, and it's not even going to be close. And then the Ravens are at home against the Giants. The Giants are traveling south a little bit. Shouldn't make too big of a difference, but we might have audiences by this point of the season. And I think that the Ravens will just feel very in their groove, very comfortable. And I don't see Daniel Jones just going in there and disrupting what Lamar's built over the course of the season. I don't think Daniel is going to have the same season as Lamar, and Lamar will win that game. And last but not least, we have in Cincinnati, and I think that that's just winning for the Ravens. I mean, I know that they're in Cincinnati, but the Ravens they've had so much momentum. They're trying to get that top spot. They're trying to beat out the other team for the top spot, which I will reveal in a later episode. But they just won't be able to quite get there. I think that the Week 3 matchup against the Chiefs is a very pivotal game in this season. I think that they could win that game, and I might even change that after this video is posted, because it is such a close game. But it'll be interesting to see. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you liked my predictions. If you didn't, let me know in the comments below. If you did, put a like on this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. And click the link for the first video of the series. I'm going to be doing a new video every week for the next 6 weeks, so make sure to check them out. Yesterday I made a video about my predictions for the NFL Top 100, number 1 through 40. So if you want to see my predictions from yesterday, click on the link. If you want to see my whether or not my predictions came true, check back tomorrow, and I'm going to be doing an analysis of my prediction and what the result was, and it'll be coming out tomorrow morning if the NFL does the top 100 tonight, which I believe they will. So thanks for watching, and have a nice day. Peace.